Welcome to BreitWerks. What we're working on is restoring this old blow-off valve or recirculation valve, depending upon what part of the Porsche world you're in. We already did this one. So this one we set up for stock configuration. So it's still got the little recirculation valve here. This one, really, I just built this in case somebody was trying to put their car back to stock. We've got one that is completely stock, but this is the one that we use for spare parts and testing out methods. You can see I had cut off the portion that goes over the throttle body. Basically, it was a cheap man's way to do a long neck / short neck conversion where you get the blow-off valve out, and then I gave it to somebody years ago. Never actually got to use it, but yeah, we got some spare parts from this guy just in case we ever need that stuff. But what we did here, took all of the hardware out, tapped all the holes out, and then bead blasted it and let it sit in the ultrasonic cleaner for hours, multiple times, drying it out, putting it back, because you don't want anything inside of this, right? This is all stuff that's going to go right to the turbocharger, right to the motor. So what we're doing on this one that's different is, instead of using the recirc valve there, what we're going to do is I pulled the tube out. You can see that the hoses attach to, and this will be a nice clean install for a modified one where you don't use that valve. A lot of people don't like the decel valve only because, you know, it gets rid of that burp, burp, burp on the downshifts. So that, what we're going to do is helicoil that same way that Porsche did it in the factory, and we're going to put a plug in there. So no chances of any leaks, because the turbos are pretty susceptible to any kind of leaks. So once we get that helicoiled, then this guy will get bathed one more time, and then we'll go ahead and put a Cerakote on him. But this one came out nice, looks great. So it's got new end seals, and all of the springs and pistons and everything all clean up really well. So as we move along, we will keep you apprised as to how this project goes. We'll test our helicoil install on the old cut up one first to make sure we can do it. Again, all this stuff is magnesium, so very, very careful with all of that. All right, we'll see you in the next segment. So we did a little practice run with our old part, and took more than one helicoil to practice, but looks like this is going to work well. So the only challenge is going to be to make sure that this gigantic tap leaves huge shavings, that we get all of those shavings out of the unit. So we're using a drain plug out of a oil drain plug out of a Boxster or M96 engine, and fits kind of perfect with a little gasket there. So we won't have to put something on the pipe that was there to seal it off. And we can run without a decel valve. So kind of cool. Now we're going to go do it to the real thing. We'll check back with you in the next segment. So it looks like our little helicoil experiment went well. I'm going to have to take all of that stuff off to clean it again, because there's a couple shavings that I can see that didn't come out. But so this is not an original idea, because it's the exact same thing Porsche did from the factory, right? You see the helicoil in there for your boost sensor. So we just took that and applied it here, and we'll get a little bit of a crush washer, because that surface is somewhat questionable, but that'll torque down. It already held torque once, tested it, so looks like we're going to be in good shape, so that when this guy is sitting on the car in this direction, we won't have that pipe sticking out of the bottom there. It'll be a nice clean install. So we're going to get back at it, give this guy another thorough washing before we mask it off again and go paint it. But that'll be a nice clean install, and it's reversible. I mean, if anybody ever wanted to go through the process of putting the decel valve back on there, just find a threaded bung and it'll work perfect. So not only is it going to be a nice little I'm calling it an upgrade because it cleans up the engine bay, and it reduces you having one more leak point for vacuum leaks or boost leaks, but it's completely reversible. So we'll get this guy cleaned up and painted, and we'll see what it looks like when it's all done. So we've got the recirc valve all painted up with Cerakote, and left the plug in during the painting process. Just figured it would look neater. And now we'll reassemble the internal piston, and then we'll go from there. So with that, we can declare our little Cerakote experiment complete, as well as putting that plug in using a M18 by 1.5 helicoil. Same thing they did on the front. And we've got our Cerakote process down. So good news was, got a couple of old parts restored, and they are ready in case anybody needs one. I may put this one in my little outlaw car just because I like how clean it looks now. But yep, we got the recirc valve completely done, and this one has the mod to remove that decel valve. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Got a couple old Porsche turbo parts restored. Check us out at BreitWerks.com.